Chapter 7, Lesson 3, we will be working on solving equations with variables that have variables on both sides, and they may have distributive property on one side or even both sides. So a quick review of what is distributive property. The first thing you have to remember is everything inside the parentheses gets multiplied by whatever is directly in front of the parentheses. So in this case, it's -4. So we're going to multiply -4 times -3x, which results in positive 12x. We also have to multiply the -4 times positive 8, which results in minus 32. Some of you have been asking me, well, what if it's negative? What if it's a minus sign? In algebra, it doesn't matter if it says subtraction or if it says addition. If you see something that looks like this, x minus 4, that's the same thing as if you were to say x plus -4. So when we're dealing with algebra, we really don't think of it as minus. We think of it, okay, is that 4 positive or is that negative? Is this 4 positive or negative? And you'll see that it means the exact same thing. So try to get away from thinking it as being a subtraction problem and start thinking of it as, is that number positive or is that number negative? So back to this problem, after we've simplified, our final result is just 12x minus 32. There's no equal sign, so we are not solving for the variable x. We are just simplifying the expression. Now in this one, we actually have an equation. But before we start to solve the equation, we have to clear out the parentheses by doing distributive property. So what is directly in front of the parentheses? In this case, it's -2. So we need to multiply -2 times 4x, which results in -8x. We also need to multiply the -2 times the -8, which results in positive 16. The 16 on the right side of the equal sign drops down. So now I have -8x plus 16 equals 16. Whenever we are solving equations, we follow our order of operations in reverse order. So we have to undo the addition or the subtraction first. The last thing that you deal with is where the x is. And since this is multiplication, that's going to be the last thing we deal with. So what we're going to do here is we're going to subtract 16 on both sides of the equation. When you subtract 16, this cancels. This -8x drops down, so we still have -8x. And then 16 minus 16 is 0. We have a multiplication problem left. It's showing -8 times x. So to inverse that multiplication, we have to divide both sides by -8. Why -8? Because that's what's being multiplied to our x. -8 divided by -8 is 1, and 1 times x is simply x. So we have x equals, and then 0 divided by -8 is still 0. So my answer here is x equals 0. Sometimes we'll have distributive property on one side, and sometimes we have it on both sides. So what I want you to think about here is I want you to think about ignoring this for right now, but let's start off by simplifying the left side of the equal sign. We have 5n plus 20n. We combine those together, and we don't get 20n, we get 25n. So now that's been simplified, we're done with it. Now on the right side of the equation, we're going to distribute 5 times n, which results in 5n. We're going to do 5 times 20, which we know is 100. Notice everything I've done so far is just simplifying both sides of the expression. So from here, now we begin to start solving the equation by putting all of the variables on one side of the equation. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract 5n from both sides of the equation. It cancels it off on the right side and leaves me with just 100. So we're dropping that down. 25 minus 5n is 20 times n, 20n. So to undo that multiplication of 20 times n, we have to divide both sides by 20. And the 20s cancel out, which results with the only thing being left here is n. And 100 divided by 20 is 5. So n equals 5, final answer. What I would like for you to do right now is I would like for you to pause this and try to work this one out on your own. And then as soon as you're finished, go ahead and push play and check your work. Alright, so hopefully the first thing you did was you distributed 4 times 3x, which results in 12x. You also did 4 times minus 2, which gives you minus 8. We have 8x minus 5. Those are two different types of terms. One has an x while one does not, so we cannot combine those together. From here, we start to solve the equation by pushing all of the variables to one side. So I'm going to look at my two variables. The 8 is smaller than the 12, so I'm going to subtract 8x on both sides. Notice that when I subtract 8x, I subtract the 8x underneath its like term on each side of the equation. I didn't put it under the minus 8 right here because that's not a like term to 8x. So I put it under the 12x because 8x and 12x are like terms. Now you'll notice that that cancels out. We're left only with the minus 5, so we drop that down. And then 12x minus 8x is 4x, and the minus 8 gets dropped down. From here, we need to get x all by itself. So we have to undo this minus 8 by adding 8 to both sides of the equation. That leaves me with 4x. So now we have 4x equals negative or positive 3. Well, 8 has the advantage, so it's got to be positive 3. And then my last step is to undo the multiplying of 4 times x by dividing both sides of the equation by 4. That cancels out, and x is equal to 3/4. Don't worry about changing that to a decimal. You can simply leave your equation in fraction form. All right, another problem, same type of example. So we have to distribute first. So 100 times x gives me 100x. 100 times negative 3 gives me negative 300. I also have to drop down what's on the right side. Those are not like terms, so I do not combine them. And now my goal is to get all of the x's on one side. So we can start by doing the inverse of minus 50x, which is plus 50x. And we want to do that to both sides underneath its like term. This cancels out. We drop down the 450. We didn't do anything with the minus 300, so we're dropping that down. And then 100x plus 100x plus 50x is 150x. From here, we have to add 300 to both sides because the inverse of subtraction is addition. So we're going to add 300. That cancels this out and leaves me with 150x. And 450 plus 300 is 750. Last step is to divide both sides by 150. 150 divided by 150 cancels out to 1, and 750 divided by 150 is 5. Therefore, x equals 5. All right, this equation or this problem has a decimal, but we still want to treat it the same way. We start off by distributing. So we have 4 times x, which gives us 4x. 4 times minus 5 gives me minus 20, and I still have minus 5, drops down. And then notice here I have a 6x, that's a like term with minus 4x. So 6x minus 4x is 2x, and then I drop down the 7 4/10. I need to combine my like terms over here, so negative 20 minus 5 is negative 25. Everything else just drops down. I now need to remove this 2x from the right side so that I only have variables on one side instead of two sides. So that cancels, leaves me with 7.4 here. 4x minus 2x is 2x, and I still have minus 25. From here, I need to add 25 to both sides of the equation. And I'm going to draw an arrow up here. So I'm running out of room. This cancels out, and now we have 2x equals, and then 25 plus 7 4/10 is 32 4/10. Even though you have a decimal, it doesn't do anything different to the problem. We still follow the same process. This is 2 times x. So to undo multiplication, we need to divide both sides by 2. And when we do that, the 2 cancels out, and x is equal to 16 2/10. All right, I have one more that I would like for you to try on your own before you get your sheet of practice problems for me. So pause this, write down this problem, and solve it. All right, so now that you've solved it, the first thing you should have done is your distributive property. 2 times x is 2x, and 2 times plus 5 is plus 10. We still have the plus 2x. Everything else drops down. We need to combine our like terms, so 2x and 2x is 4x. Notice we're only combining with what's on the left side of the equal sign. The 3x is on the right side, so I can't combine that with the 2x and 2x yet. So now we have 4x, the plus 10 was untouched, so that drops down. 3x plus 110 also was untouched, so that drops down. From here, I know that I need to subtract 3x from both sides, so that cancels. The 110 was untouched, so I drop it down. The plus 10 was untouched, I drop it down. And 4x minus 3x is x. My last step, this is x plus 10 equals 110. The inverse operation of adding 10 is subtracting 10, so I subtract 10 on both sides. That cancels, and x equals 100. And then that is my final answer. So now that you're finished with this video, please see me for the number 7 video questions. You'll work those out and then show that to me before you go on to the next video.